Hey, what's up everybody? It's me, Retrovin, and I thought it'd be cool to do a review of Jak 3. Since we've done the first two, it seems fitting to do this game. Anyways, I guess we'll start with the plot line and then we'll get into the game. The game starts off with Jak being stranded in the wasteland after, basically, like his, I guess, relationship with Crew in the second game where he was doing missions for him. The council believe, because the city was under attack in the game, that Jak was responsible for it, so they exiled him into the city, into the desert from the city. Daxter and Pecker come in and they come to basically say that they want to recount. But as it turns out, it seems like they both like go in there and leave, but in the end, stays behind in the desert with Jak, and he says a line that will be used later in the game, so there's a little bit of importance to it. After the events of Jak 2, the city went to war basically between the Metalhead factions, the Crimson Deathbots, and the Freedom League. Jak is on the Freedom League side, but as it turns out, they think his relationship with Crew, as I mentioned before, is the reason why the Metalheads have returned to the city, and that's the reason for his exile within the game. Sadly, like a lot of the landmarks within the second game were destroyed, like the palace and many parts of the cities that are basically no more now. Eventually, they're
Looks
found by
like we found some
wastelanders.
live ones. Barely. Here's the beacon we were picking up. Who gave you this? We'll take them with us. Let's move. I smell a storm coming.
Eventually, Jak, after Jak is saved by the wastelanders, he's brought in as one of the citizens after doing a bunch of challenges. And for the whole first act of the game, that's mainly what you're doing. You're doing various arena challenges, different like areas in the desert, and I always thought it was a really cool section. As a kid, I liked the city more, but looking back at it now, the whole desert part of the game was actually really cool and a neat feature that they added to the game. Um, it was a really neat addition to the story, and the relationship between Jak and Deimos, even though it wasn't really utilized a whole ton like later in the game, the whole first act where they talked to each other actually had some really good dialogue, I think. And I guess it's overall fitting because Jak 2 and 3 generally have pretty solid stories. Eventually, Jak runs into Sig again after completing the final arena challenge, and to the shock of them, Sig is supposed to kill them because it's like a rule of the arena thing. When they don't follow the rule of the arena thing, Deimos basically sends them on a mission to do stuff for him. So, and after that is the point where like the part, sort of the plot of Act Two starts to kick in. And the jump start of that was Jak meeting Ashlyn, and Ashlyn basically trying to convince him to go back to the city. Jak seems to refuse to budge, and says he's not going back to the city. Funny enough, the mission you proceed to do is the mission where you return to the city through the catacombs and everything. After you get through the catacombs, you meet Viger, who was the guy at the beginning of the game. Yeah, it turns out he's kind of insane because he thinks that he can use the Precursor's power to destroy the Darkmakers himself. So I guess you could say he's kind of going power hungry and is on a ego trip. I wouldn't say he's the main villain of the game, of course, because he's not the particular threat, but I would say he is at least like a side villain. So he's kind of like somebody who still tries to hinder your progress, but he's not the main baddie of the whole game. The main baddie was a previous villain from the second game who was also like kind of the side villain of that one, Errol, who takes front and center as the main villain of this one. Once back in the city, Jak and Daxter meet Torn and Samos and Kira, and basically now at this point, the main plot line of Act Two is to help Torn get back to the northern part of the city, so he can get back to the old headquarters or to the main headquarters. So yeah, you'll be doing a lot of war type missions, and I thought those were really cool too because you basically had to like either like go to like the sewers or you had to go to the industrial area, which was a previous section in the second game to destroy certain things. The gun courses are back, which I don't really mind too much. They're kind of boring, but they don't really make me, want to scream or anything. And just eventually, there's also a point where you do return to the desert. You talk to Deimos once, and that's kind of what I meant by, the fact that you don't really see Deimos much after misadventures back in the desert, doing war missions and collecting artifacts within said desert. You eventually get the passageway into the war factory, which Errol happened to be leading the whole time. And you basically find out that he's actually been working with the Darkmakers the whole time, along with the Metalheads. So technically, the whole time they've all been working together. And you didn't really know that he had communication with the Darkmakers until now. And then after that, you do a little boss fight with him, and that's when we kind of segment into Act 3, where now Jack knows his main mission. He knows that he has to take down Errol and stop the Darkmakers before they destroy the world. An interesting thing to note is that as you're playing through the game, the Daystar, which is what it's called, the Darkmaker ship, actually gets closer. So it's like a little purple star-looking thing that you basically see on the map. And the further the game goes on, the closer it gets, showing the threat within it. Right here that there are major spoilers ahead, so don't watch further if you don't want to see them. Alright, that's your warning. So basically, after most of Act 3 where like you're trying to fight the Darkmakers, you eventually go to the palace ruins, and Deimos eventually comes in to help. Turns out he gets like the car crashed on him at the end, and you find out that the boy that Jack was in the second game was actually the son of Deimos that he was looking for throughout the game. And it was a very emotional scene too. Viger comes in and basically taunts Jack, and he gets angry. And within that cutscene, Daxter basically, like says after him, Jack. And and that was like the one time Daxter's like, yeah, I'm ready to go into danger, which is actually really cool because it shows the friendship between him and Daxter in the games that um they haven't really like utilized too much. So I think like in part not just because it's a very emotional and revealing scene, it's also really good because it shows that Daxter and Jack are really a duo. It's kind of like how they handle Ratchet's relationships in his games, like with Clank. And it's a really good friendship, sort of like showing like how good their friendship is. Funny enough, though, once you get to the end of the game, there's a major twist that as a kid really surprised me, and I'm sure it surprised a lot of other Jack fans, kids or not. So the precursors that they've been looking for this whole time actually happen to be...
We are unhappy with your performance. If you had been a true hero, you would have stopped Errol by now.
Oh my god.
Yes, well, now we are even more angry, and we order you to avert your eyes, or we will,
Oh, bother.
But yeah, it turns out the whole time that Daxter was part of the precursor essence. And basically like the precursors are like the same race Daxter became. Viger wanted to become them, and when he wished for that, he literally became an Otzel or a precursor, as they're called. Which was a funny karma in the end of near the end of the game for him. In the end, after a very hard battle with Errol, Jack pulls out his Peacemaker and finishes the job, which is very satisfying at the end after what was actually a pretty tough fight with him. In the end, everything seems all peachy and good, except for the fact that the precursors basically offer Jack to go with them, but of course, like, Jack kind of doesn't want to go because, he has his friend Daxter there. Daxter wishes for pants. Tess becomes an Otzel just like him. So, that explains, like, the whole Jack X thing. So it's kind of a cool little ending because Daxter finally got his wish that he wanted. After the precursors leave, though, like with Jack, presumably, Jack just comes out from behind. They never explain how that happens, but he somehow returns, and he repeats that line that I mentioned Daxter said within the thing, which is a really nice throwback, I think. Anyways, that's about it for the plot. I thought it was a really good story. Not as good as 2, of course, because 2 had I guess more of an in-depth plot, but this one was still a pretty solid plot nonetheless. But yeah, now that we got the story out of the way, we could finally get into the real meat of the game. So, you know, as we've done for the first 2 games, you got your basic punch, your spin, your slam, you know, your punch up, your spin up. I've said this before. You have your, you know, your same guns from the second game. But now they have modifications. So the red gun has the wave concussor. It's got the bomb weapon. Aside from the blaster, you have the super OP ricochet. If you spin everywhere, it just goes all over the place. It sometimes makes the game really easy, so I sometimes try not to use it to give myself more of a challenge. And this one basically just shoots like a whole saucer that just shoots everywhere. It's really powerful if you have unlimited ammo, but you know, like if you're still using ammo, it's not really all that great, you know. And of course you got this, the fast gun, you got this, you know, it's like a big giant electricity wave. It's pretty powerful when you need to use it. This one also kind of wastes ammo, but it's not as, I guess you could say bad as the yellow one. Then of course you got the Peacemaker. You got the anti-gravity one. See if I can get some ammo for this so I can, Oh, I might not have ammo. Wait, hold on. Sorry about that, I had to switch to another file so I can show off this weapon. So this one's basically just like a tactical nuke when you use it. The Supernova. Basically just blows up everything. Dark Jack's back. You guys remember that from the second game. That was a big thing. You know, you have your same moves. You have this. You have the, you know, you can cause the big explosions. You could do the, like, the big dive down. The only thing they did remove was the, I think they removed the invulnerability and the giant Dark Jack, which I was a little disappointed in the giant Dark Jack, but the invulnerability wasn't too big of a deal, because that just means, you know, no health. And regular Jack, I think, has invulnerability, so there wasn't really much of a need for it anyways. You know. The hover vehicles are also back, so you can, like, hover around places and just, you know, fly anywhere with the small ones, the big ones, the regular ones. They don't have the cop ones anymore, but that kind of makes sense, because the city's at a war and there's not really, I guess, a good system left, since, you know, the, like, all the Crimson or Freedom League people that, like, I guess were, like, the police in Jak 2 are too busy fighting, the metalheads within the game to, you know, like, police Jak. And yes, it is true, the Jetborg is back in Jak 3, and a lot more improved, too. So now, your boost jump can actually go higher. You have basically, like, an attack move with it, which the second game didn't have. So it makes using the Jetboard a lot easier. It still has its same basic moves, like grinding and, you know, Tony Hawking, as the kids say still. So, you know, it still has its basic movements, but with an added flair. So it's kind of like the Jetboard 2.0, I'd say. Also, the mech does return for one mission, but it's, like, literally the same and still shit. Of course, you know, I wasn't gonna forget to mention the desert vehicle, which you can use throughout the desert. You have the Tough Puppy, which is, you know, like, default, you can only race, you can't really shoot anything vehicle. The Sand Shark, which the developers seem to like, I'd almost say it's an Easter egg to a certain other enemy in another franchise, but I guess it's a bit vague, so you don't know. It has its basic, you know, machine guns, so pretty solid vehicle. Nothing super to write home about. One I really like, and my personal favorite, is the Dune Hopper. It basically has bombs, and the biggest thing it has going for it is its big jump. So you can basically, like, just jump really high up in the air. It's almost like a boost sort of jump if you, use it. Then you have the Gillisnopper, which is, basically just a big tank with a machine gun. I don't personally like it as much as, the other vehicles, but it's a pretty solid vehicle if you're just, you know, wanting to, like, ram through shit and blow stuff up. And, this weapon's only used, like, in the story for one mission, but it's still really good, the Slam Dozer. Basically, like, it rams into stuff, and it has a better turret than the, Gillisnopper, I think. The rest of the vehicles are unlockable vehicles, which are ones you have to buy, like the Dust Demon. This one is kind of like a weird mix. So it's small like the other one, and it like doesn't have the big jump, but it also has the bombs like the Dune Hopper. You have the Heat Seeker, which is basically literally just another sand shark. There's nothing to it. It's still cool to have like the option of another vehicle though, like that. What else is there? And one last vehicle, the Desert Screamer, which is also another sand shark. Still an okay vehicle, but there's not really anything special to it, really. Overall, a very good selection of vehicles, and I like being able to explore the desert with them, even if there's marauders trying to kill me constantly. And I guess now that we got all that stuff out of the way, I guess I can start talking about the environment. So, the environments within Jak 3 are very nice. Particularly, like, for an example, I want to show off the desert. It really gives off the feel of a barren, inhospitable, I guess, like, wasteland, which is basically what it is. You know, you have marauders, like, the only people that, like, drive out here are psychomaniacs that want to kill you. Which is pretty fitting, because it is a desert, you know. Kind of makes you get loopy. There's a lot of locations within the desert that you can go to, which is cool. Haven City, while not as good as the second game, because it's smaller, is still pretty cool, because you basically are exploring a war-torn version of the city. Like, with just everything destroyed, and, you know, just basically like everybody and everything at war in that game, or in that area. You have Haven Forest, or South Haven Forest, which is, it's beautiful like the other one, but not in the same way. Like, it's more like fall looking than, say, like spring or summer. You know, you got the War Factor, you got tons of locations that are very unique to it. You know, just like the first two games, I'd say. I guess with those out of the way, I guess it's a good time to talk about the music now. And let me tell you, the music is very solid. Just like the first game, we're going to be, you know, showing the first two games, we're going to be showing 3 examples of really good tracks within the game before we give the final, I guess, rating for it. Well, anyways, I guess that's about it for my Jak 3 review. I just wanted to get this done when I had the time. I hope you guys enjoyed. My rating for Jak 3 would be also a really great game. Possibly my favorite, but I guess again with like the first and second one, it's not like super different from 2, so I guess I don't really have an excuse this time, but I don't know. I guess in a lot of ways, Jak 3 kind of is better than Jak 2. Just like in a lot of the improvements it's done. And I know most people, or at least like a lot of reviewers tend to prefer the second one, but I don't know. Like, I love the second one, but aside from maybe story, the third one's improved on basically everything. So like on a gameplay perspective, it's definitely a better game in my opinion. So I definitely probably rate Jak 3 as my favorite one if I had to you know, choose. Anyways, though, that is going to be about it for this video. I hope you guys have a good one. Thank you for watching my review, and I'm out. Peace.